Thank you, Danielle. So this morning, we talk about this. Seeing is believing. I know you've heard that, and I, for one, have said that. Seeing is believing. We live in a world where seeing things helps us to say, yep, that's true, that's right. But like I said with the kids, a lot of times we don't see and still we believe. We don't always see, but we still can believe. And as the writer of Hebrews talks about, this is what we talk about as faith. Something we can't really see, but yet we believe it. It says faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Kind of a simple explanation in a lot of ways, but it's true. It's confidence in what we hope for. We hope for a better world. We hope for this. We hope for that. We don't see those things. And then Hebrews goes on to talk about all of the people of ancient times and how they lived the faith that they were given, that they developed. We have, as a matter of fact, in some Bibles, a little heading on chapter 11 in Hebrews says the history of the heroes or heroes of the faith. And the writer of Hebrews goes through and the whole chapter after that little intro is basically about different people throughout time who have lived by faith, who have not seen and yet have believed. And that's kind of where I want to go today is what does it mean to have faith? And what does it mean to believe where we don't see? Does it mean that we just sort of close our eyes to everything that's going on in the world around us and walk through life like a blind person who can get along, they can find their way, they can, we know people without sight can function very well. But for those of us with sight, we always feel like they're missing a lot of stuff. They're missing out on this, missing out on that. And people who look at followers of Christ, believers in God, who live by faith and don't worry about having to see all the time, a lot of people say, we're just like that. We're just like blind people. We close our eyes to the things around us, and we just blindly go through trusting in God, and everything will be fine, and everything is rosy, and all of that. But that's really not what it means. Seeing isn't necessarily believing. I don't know about you folks, but I kind of enjoy magic shows. And my favorite one lately is called Fool Us with Penn and Teller. And what they do is they have other magicians come and they try to do an illusion that will fool Penn and Teller. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was a magician, that would scare me to death. Those guys are good, and I wouldn't want to try to fool them. I will say they're always very gracious, even when they're not fooled. I watched one the other day, and they said, we know how you did it, but you did it great. you did that the best we've ever seen anybody do it, even better than we can do it. But when we watch magic, seeing isn't necessarily believing. Our eyes can be fooled. We can be fooled by the things that we see and get ourselves off track. But we're called to have faith in something we can't see. As I was preparing for this, I ran across some information about a man who I remember, but I didn't remember all about him. Admiral James Stockwell. Interestingly enough, his name is James Bond Stockwell. He was a vice presidential candidate with Ross Perot and back in the 90s, when Perot ran. But what he is better known for, really, is that he was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 7.5 years and survived it and went on to prosper and grow. And he has talked about his time there, and he talked about what it was that helped him to survive. And it's called, now it has an official name, it's the Stockdale Paradox. And this is what it is, except for the red letters. In his statement, it says, you must retain faith that you will prevail in the end, regardless of the difficulties. And at the same time, you must confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. Now, I changed it to God. I didn't look into his background and discover his faith in God, but really, this is a statement of how we are to live by faith. We must retain the faith that God will prevail in the end, no matter what's going on. I talk about this a lot. This takes me back to John's Gospel, when Jesus is with his disciples for the last time that he'll be with them, before his crucifixion and death. And he tells them, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. And it isn't because they're going to go into a life that doesn't have difficulties. They're not going to go into a life that's going to be all rosy and, sunshine and buttercups and everything will be sweet. They are asked to retain faith that God will prevail in the end, no matter the difficulties, in spite of those difficulties. But they're also charged to be aware of all of the things that are happening in this world, no matter how bad they might be. Not to put blinders on, not to close their eyes to the things that are happening around them, but to say, God's going to win in the end. God will prevail. And so, what do? That's the question I ask myself. If I really believe God will prevail, how should I live each day? What should I do? How should I be involved in this world? It's not saying, oh, God's going to win, so I can just dance through life. It's saying God will win, but if he's going to win, and I'm on that team, what do I do each day? How do I live when I see things that are wrong? How do I live if things are not the way they should be? How do I live each day in the reality that I believe in, that is, God will win, God will prevail, no matter what? No matter what happens in this world. What do I do? How should I get up and start my day? How should I go about my day? How should I end my day? How should I live each day if I believe that? If that is in fact what my faith teaches me? Well, Hebrews kind of starts right out and tells us. It says, by faith, Abraham, when he was called to a place that he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he didn't know where he was going. That's always struck me, in that story of Abraham and his call. God says, go to a place that I will show you. Not that I have shown you, not that I have given you a road map to. They didn't have Google Maps in those days. They didn't even have road maps to the place that Moses or Abraham was going. And yet he picked up from his home and left. And he was even older than me when he did it. He believed that God would win, that God would prevail, and so he did what God called him to do. He went and did what needed to be done. And throughout this chapter of Hebrews, it talks about all of these people that trusted in God and just did what God asked them to do. See, in faith, that's the key. We just trust that what God says is true, and what God asks us to do needs to be done. And honestly, friends, we don't need to know the reason. We don't need to know why. Abraham didn't say, well, why God? Why are you sending me to this country that I don't know anything about what's going to happen? Well, God told him eventually, but he just got up and went. You'd say, wait, God, I need a little background here. What is it I'm supposed to do when I get there? Who am I supposed to talk to? What direction should I go? No, he just got up and he went. So, what are we supposed to do? Well, there's one thing. Seeking human kindness. You know what, friends? We live in a world where that is a very, very, very scarce commodity. Where human kindness and caring kind of goes out the window. Especially for people that are hard to love and hard to be kind to. And yet, it's one of the many things that God calls us to do in this fallen world, in this place where people have needs, people hurt, people are afraid, people are scared, people, they don't know what to do. And they're seeking somebody, anybody, who will show some kindness, who will show some compassion, who will let them know that no matter what, they're loved, they're cared for. So maybe that's one of the things that God is calling us to do, as he says, come and have faith in me and walk this life with me and trust that this is what needs to be done. And that in the end, I'm going to be the winner. I will be in charge. Maybe it's just that we need to help somebody. You know, as simple as a hand up when someone needs assistance. And it doesn't need to be a big thing. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness makes the biggest difference in a person's life. But faith calls us to do that. It says it's the confidence in the things we hope for and the things we can't see. We trust in those things. We can't see what difference it'll make. We can't see how it could possibly help, how it could possibly do anything. But we trust that God's in charge, God's in control, and someday we'll be with him, and he's called us to do this, and so this is something that needs to be done. No matter what, no matter why, no matter the reason that we think we need to have, we're just called to have faith and to step out. Because, as it says, without faith, it's impossible to please God. And you know, if God in the end wins, I don't know about you, but I would like to please God. Because God's going to be the ultimate victor in this world. So we need to show our faith. It isn't that we do all of these things and that gives us faith. That faith that all of these heroes in chapter 11 of Hebrews showed was there, and the actions came after that. They trusted in God. They believed that God was God of the universe, God of everything. And so when God said, you need to do this, you need to help here, you need to, they did it. Because they had faith, not the other way around. Too often in the world, in the church today, we try to do enough stuff so that we'll have faith. It's backwards. We just need to have faith. And if we have faith, we will be doing the stuff that God needs us to do. It's important for us to have that faith. And this is what Stockdale thought every day. He said these were the thoughts he put in his mind every day when he woke up. I'm still in this horrible place. Someday I'll get out. So how should I live this day? And friends, he's, like I said, I don't know about his faith in God or what his belief was. But I think those are wonderful things for us. Now you can take out horrible, because this world really isn't that horrible. Some days it is, I admit. But for the most part, it's a wonderful place. But it's not home. This isn't our eventual home. No matter, I had a friend that said, we need to be prepared for heaven because it doesn't matter. Nobody's getting out of this life alive. We will all go to heaven. Or the other direction. So we need to prepare for the next place. And as we do that, we're still here. You wake up in the morning, I'm still here. Someday I won't be. I'll get out. I will go on to the next life. But how should I live this day? Right now, these 24 hours that are in front of me, how should I live this day? And it's important for us to remember that we need to remember that this world, this earth that we live on, is not our end destination. This world, for good or for ill, for the great days and the horrible days, is not our home. Our eventual home is a place that will not have bad days. We won't have horrible days. We won't wake up miserable. We'll wake up with joy. We will live with joy. But in the meantime, faith is what it takes. Faith. Trusting that God, even though we can't see God, is God of all that there is. Trusting that heaven is our home, even though we can't see heaven. And that someday we will have a place there. Trusting that this is not all there is. Faith. Believing in what we can't see. Hoping for what we don't know about. All of those things we need to believe. God is in charge. And so it says, faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. This is what we can be commended for also. Trusting in God. Friends, there's, in my opinion, there's no better place that we can put our trust than in the God of the universe, the God who holds everything and is waiting in our true home for that day when we'll come and gather ourselves with the saints that have gone beyond. Faith. It's not easy, but the rewards are wonderful. Trust